Hey, and welcome back to Common Sense with Adam. Today we're going to be looking at a subject that I think is quite interesting. We're going to be doing a video about a few simple steps to buying your first flip property. And I know there's a lot of videos on the subject already, but in everything that I've seen, I've watched, no one really has this approach that I strongly recommend. Because I mean, all you hear about is find a off-market property or a pocket listing, and then get a hard money loan, and then hire a bunch of contractors, and then within that 60 to 90 days, sell it. I mean, it's a quick move. It's a quick transaction, and I get it. For someone who is in the business, for someone whose primary or income or bread and butter is fixing property, that's great. But that approach is not for the average Joe. So I want to speak to the average Joe, to someone who has not flipped a home yet, and what I would advise as the simple steps to essentially succeed in that endeavor. There are a few make sense practices or steps around owning real estate or buying real estate, especially to us Americans, which we just cannot afford to miss. And what I mean by that is to legally avoid paying Uncle Sam. That's right, there is a method for it. But before we get any further, I do need to make a distinction between buying your forever home, if you will, and then buying your flip, just so there is no confusion. Because buying your forever home, I mean, everything I've referenced in the previous video still stands, still holds true. That's at least 10 to ideally 20% down. You want to be a 15-year term, not 30, so you want to pay it off quickly. That's the idea. Fixed rate, always fixed rate. Make an extra principal payment when you can. Again, the goal is to pay it off as soon as possible. But when purchasing a flip home, it's actually quite the opposite. You want to put down as little as you can. So take an FHA loan, 3% down, 5% down, whatever you can get. Take a 30-year term, not 15. So the goal here is to keep your carrying costs, your mortgage, as little as possible. And don't bother making extra payments, not needed for this purpose. And then perhaps most importantly, do not rush into selling it. And that's the biggest thing, or that's the biggest difference. So it is the intention to buy or to occupy and hold the property for 2 years. So one of the main takeaways here is to forget hard money. They're way too expensive, and you don't need one, really. And I don't even recommend getting the 203B FHA rehab loan. Because really, the truth of the matter is, if that is the loan that's required for the property, it's likely too much of an undertaking for a first timer. So walk away. And sure, I get it. I mean, any sort of investing is risky business, but our goal is to always manage risk. To take that calculated risk, especially while starting out. So take on a project that you feel comfortable with, that at the end of the day does not affect your sleep. Here we are back again at sleep. Because again, I hold it as at one of the most high regards. So I hope that you do too, because life is different. Life is enhanced greatly when you sleep better, when you sleep on a schedule. And something I've learned, I'm reading a book right now, 12 Lessons of Life. Oh my gosh, Jordan Peterson, I'm blanking what it's called. What I thought was interesting about sleep is that perhaps the most important thing about sleep is to wake up on the same schedule every day, regardless of what time you go to sleep. By waking up, by allowing your brain to have the discipline or the rhythm of waking up at the same time, that is the healthiest thing for our mind. Jordan Peterson, not me. Anyhow, back to the flip. So my method is, as you can tell, a long-term game or strategy with tax consequences in mind. So the idea is to buy something that needs some TLC, really. And by TLC, here's what I mean. 1, paint. Interior, exterior. new carpet or just clean carpet. That's 2. New chandeliers, lighting, that's just for style. In general, those things are cheap, so I absolutely recommend going or replacing all those. And last but not least, not terribly important, but I find it super helpful, just some new curb appeal, so new shrubs, new landscaping. But don't go all out because that adds up very quickly, so keep it simple, keep it tasteful, keep it clean. And you know what all those things have in common? Is that they're all pretty simple things. I could do them, you could do them, probably. So what I want to do just for a moment is acknowledge those of you who are just not handy at all. And doing these what I would consider simple things is just too much for you. I hate to break it to you, but I need to save you some money, save you out of trouble, and just be honest that home flipping isn't for you if you're not handy at all. And I mean, honestly, you'll come to this realization yourself sooner than later. So, the not so handy listeners out there, the most loving thing I can tell you right now is stick to your day job, save the 10-20% that you can to buy yourself a new construction or as close to a new construction home as possible. Just move in ready so you can move in, do nothing to it. That is the best thing you could do for yourself. Forget flips. Anyhow, addressing the rest of you, the meat of my message today is buy a house that needs some love. So move into it for a year, ideally 2 years, and do those 4 things to it. Put some sweat equity to it. It always pays dividends. So the 2 objectives in mind here, as you sort of consider or approach the flip: 1, sweat equity is king, and 2, simply betting on the house going up in value over time that you are occupying it. And we're really banking on curb appeal and housing market appreciation sort of doing the magic for you. Just to give you an example, I sold a property in August of 2020, a pretty successful trip or flip, a little over 100,000. We'll be looking at that one perhaps in the next few videos. But the punchline here is that today that property easily is worth 100,000 more, maybe closer to $125. So, I mean, for me, I am not in it to hold it unless it's my primary. So I'm not taking the long-term game. So I am, again, all for renters. I'm all for buying smart and holding. It's simply not something that I'm interested in dabbling for now. So I'm essentially watching how I could have potentially made another 100,000, and I did not, because I sold it within under 90 days, really. This one was quick too. So the lesson there is, it is good to keep and hold on to your real estate. Just like stocks in some way, you want to hold on to those things as long as you can, assuming you bought right, assuming you bought stock you value, you appreciate, you sort of see potential long term. So don't sell it when the dips, don't sell it when things get tricky. But anyway, that's another video we'll get into another day. And I know it's not that exciting to be moving around so much, but from a financial standpoint or capital gain standpoint, it absolutely makes sense to buy a house, live in it for 2 years, sell it, do it over and over and over and over again until you get into your dream house. I mean, that literally is the recipe for the novice, for someone who's flipping homes is not a day job. So I would say for anybody who's remotely handy, that is the approach. And honestly, if the market tanks or whatever, there's really nothing to worry about. Just sit tight, wait until things rebound. No harm in that. You're sitting on a comfortable 30-year payment, fixed rate, weather the storm, because it too shall pass. It always does. So if you missed everything I said today, let me have your attention again. 3 things, the 3 takeaways for you are: 1, forget hard money. 3% down, FHA, 30-year fixed, that is the approach. 2, sweat equity is king. Do as much of it as you possibly can. And if you aren't handy, don't touch it. It's not, do not buy a flip property. And 3, it's not gonna be a quick turnaround. The goal is to hold it for a year, ideally 2, And why? Because that is how we avoid paying any sort of tax to, or income tax to Uncle Sam. So if you keep it for 2 years or more, 100% of the profit is yours without needing to pay any sort of tax. And if you pay it beforehand, so say in a year or sometime before 2 years, the tax is prorated. So it still makes sense to go about it this way, even if you can't commit the entire 2 years. One is good enough. So look for a house with potential. See what it can be. Don't get distracted by some of the wacky paint colors or stains on the carpet. Don't let that fret you, because ultimately you want to buy a house that is a little ugly, really. Huge potential, but a little bit of an eyesore. So forget the move-in ready listings. In fact, let it be an automatic deterrent. Don't even go see it, but let words like TLC or seller will make no repairs or even as is, let those be the trigger words that excite you, that get you on the search to find that flip house. And that's it, folks. Before you go though, hit subscribe, hit like, it helps me a lot. Hope you had the merriest of Christmas and a happy new year. Wish you well here in 2022. Godspeed.